Tacoma and Pierce County, where the city resides, only has an 18% of its population has a four-year degree. Higher education is a foreign concept in our community. And so we've decided not just to focus on student success, we've decided to build a college-going culture in our community as a part of that process. And let me give you an example of how we've begun to shape the discussion within our community holistically in order to address completion. City of Tacoma has 5 comprehensive high schools. The 6-year graduation rate in those high schools range between 23 and 46%. That's in high school. If they're not completing high school, they're not going to make their way to 2-year colleges or 4-year school. Our chancellors here, we just went to a community forum where we presented to 700 of our community leaders the end of October. Our graduation rate in high school now is 81%. And that's been since 2012, in part because of our work with our high schools. And what we have decided to do in our community, we're seen as the answer. If there's an issue within the Tacoma community, they come to our institution and say, how do we resolve this issue? So as part of building a college-going culture, one thing that we do is we bring in all of the English teachers that are teaching 12th grade English, and we instruct them on how to write a college admissions essay. And that actually becomes the first essay that all seniors in our county write during their senior year to prepare them to go off to school, as an example of something that we do. We also send our financial aid people to talk about financial literacy. Because one thing we realize is that you can't start preparing to go to college and be successful during the latter part of your senior year. And so we actually start that process with entering 9th graders, teaching them about financial literacy and preparing for college. We're very fortunate that we do have a much larger connection with the University of Washington, Seattle. And so if you're a Pell Grant student, we do cover your tuition and up to 67% of the cost of tuition. Fortunate enough on our campus, that's the vast majority of our campus. So we do have that connection. But one of the things I want to talk about from our perspective, it is a holistic process. Myself as the Vice Chancellor for Student Enrollment Services and our Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs sit down monthly with our academic deans and directors and our campus leadership and determine what are the barriers that prohibit our students from graduating. And we intentionally remove those barriers. If there's a barrier associated with childcare, we've developed a system where our students can get up to $600 a year to support with childcare, which is an important part of our community. If there's an issue with completion of those students who come from the community college, we've set up a program where we're able to cover 2 of the 3 quarters of your final 3 quarters if you have maxed out on your financial aid, which is 6 years. But as a part of that, we've also decided to intervene at the community college level. So for all of our top 5 feeder institutions, they have a part-time person who is one of our employees who work to sequence their students who are interested in going to 4-year schools to get them on track and completion in 3 years or less. And so that's an expense that our institution takes on as a part of us trying to get them through completion at the 4-year level. The other thing that we do that I think is a bit different than many institutions, we actually have a member of our faculty on our education faculty who actually, as part of our work with our school districts, actually go in to the school districts and teach them how to deal with behavior within the classroom. And with that, what teachers have found is that discipline has gone down, attendance has gone up, so schools have gotten more funding to support their schools, And how that has supported us is now they are paying for their students to take the school districts are paying for their students to take the SAT, ACT, and they're paying for their college application fee in order to come to UW-Tacoma as a part of that process. And so for us, it's not just looking at it from a programmatic perspective, it is looking at it from a community capacity building perspective at University of Washington, Tacoma.
Can you talk a little bit about your completion grant and how it's structured?
Yeah, so our completion grant is really structured in two ways, embedded with all that context. We have a portion that actually goes for emergency need. If a student has maxed out on their financial funding for cost of attendance, rather than encourage them to take loans or Parent Plus loan, our institution connected with our community and our corporate sponsors have given us, I won't say a number, but is well over $1 million annually to support students in our community. 80% of our graduates go back to the zip codes that they come to us from, so they're supporting their own. So we're able to cover things such as if a car breaks down or you've got to let go of your job for a couple of months, utilities, things of that nature, and we cover that up to $1,800 a year. The second component of our retention, our completion grant is that because of the vast majority of our students actually go to the community college, at 6 years they're not only eligible for any financial aid. So what we have agreed to do is that if you follow and come through our program at the community college, and if it takes you more than 6 years, then we'll cover your last two quarters of tuition. And so that's the way we use our grant in order to facilitate students completing their degrees at University of Washington, Tacoma.
And if I could ask one more detailed follow-up question, can you just describe a little bit about how students access it? Is it something the financial aid office reaches out to offer to people? How does it work?
Yeah, great question. One of the things that we have done at UW-Tacoma is that we've empowered any member of our community to initiate the process for students. So if you're going through a financial aid counselor, if you're going through academic advisor, or if you're having a conversation with the faculty members and the faculty, if you've disclosed to a faculty member that you have a designated need, the faculty member is empowered to contact us, my office, and I will forward it to financial aid, and we're able to provide that resource to our students. So as a part of the community, our campus community, we've charged everyone to be responsible for completion and retention.
Wonderful. Thank you. Maybe I'm going to grab it with some effort. Good morning. My name is Stacy Moore. I'm Associate Vice President, Associate Provost for Student Success and Retention at the University of Akron. So I'll tell you a little bit. What we call our ZIPS retention and completion grants are part of the overall retention and completion plan. That's been an important piece for us to keep it connected to the overall campus efforts towards retention and completion. So very little bit about the University of Akron for those of you who don't know. Akron is a regional institution, Northeast Ohio, 26,000 students, about 6,000 of those students are graduate students. Overall population that got us, concerned and moving in a direction like this, somewhere between 43 and 50% of our students, depending on the semester, are Pell eligible. About 25% of our students have an estimated family contribution of 0 in the whole population. So we know it was a significant issue for us in looking at some kind of grant that helped our students move to that completion piece, given that as we talk to our students, whether it be via focus groups, interviews, or surveys, financial issues constantly one of the biggest barriers to persistence and completion for them. So we began what we call now the ZIPS retention and completion grants. We started them actually only in 2013, and we happened to have a small pool of one-time dollars at that point. Those just kind of random one-time dollars that periodically come. This one was because one of the other schools in the MAC, the Midwest Athletic Conference, left the conference, and so everybody else got money. And so we took that money, having recognized that we had a lot of students, particularly we focused first on that Pell Gap, and then we broadened the focus to general unmet financial need and even to students who are not Pell eligible. But it started there with a pool of one-time dollars, just under $200,000. And then we collected a lot of data. We looked very carefully we give amounts less than $2,000. The ROI very initially was well over $700,000 for the institution. So it became an easy pitch that we then made to sustain at least a pool of $200,000 per year that we would then administer for either retention or completion grants. And I'll tell you a little bit about, since we do both of those. Overall, we have 65% minimally of our completion grant recipients graduate within that 1 year, because on the completion side, we give it to students who are within about 1 year of graduation, and then 35% have applied for graduation in that 1 year. The grants that we give are one-time grants. Now, on an individual basis, we will look at a renewable to another semester or a second amount. We have a very small committee who looks at that quickly, does the full financial aid analysis to make sure we truly give the grants to students for whom there are no other options. We do the full analysis to make sure there are no other financial aid analyses, and then work with the students who truly cannot contribute further, for the most part, the best we can, honestly, who cannot contribute further to their education. To give you a sense of, we started with just the completion grants, and again, that was Pell Gap sort of grants, as well as what we called our achievement scholars, meaning those are students who, upon entrance to the institution, did not qualify for institutional merit scholarships, but are performing well at the institution overall. So they may or may not have been eligible for the Pell Grant, but they were performing well and had genuine unmet need. When we then moved to the retention grants, recognizing that we had students earlier on in the cycle having a difficult time persisting, but with very small balances, we then actually do have a program now for students who've completed 15 or more credits and are in good academic standing who have that unmet need. At the end of a semester, we will then issue our retention grants as well. Our annual pool remains around $200,000, and the ROI each year has been over $700,000.
Could I actually ask you to, is this on? Yes, could you explain a little bit about how you calculate ROI and what that means?
Sure, that's a great question. The ROI for us, we keep it very simple, and so we look at, again, you have to remember that we're really looking at students who, if not for these dollars, they would not be continuing at the institution for the most part. To the best we can guarantee that. Tim and I were talking, there's probably always some group of students that, somehow would have found the money, and maybe we gave it soon, but we really do the best we can to get to that point with a student. So then we recognizing those students would not have been back the next semester, we simply calculate based on tuition and fees that would not have come into the institution because the student wouldn't have been there. I do not count state subsidy, any estimate for state subsidy, so that ROI, and I subtract out any institutional merit scholarships that are given. So we truly just get what is that estimate of tuition and fees that would not have come into the institution if not for those retention and completion grants. Then I subtract from the total the $200,000 in annual basis that we gave out.
Wonderful. And you had mentioned a committee who
Yes.
oversees this. Who makes up that committee?
We have a very small committee on purpose. I'd recommend that for all of you. Very, very small. There's 3 of us, and so and really 2 of us manage it for the most part, and it's financial aid, and it's really my office as the kind of folks looking at campus-wide retention.
Great. All right, rather than blaze through the rest of the presentations, let me take a pause there. I know some of you may have some questions, and if you wouldn't mind, maybe come up to the microphone to ask them, just so everyone can hear them. Anybody have